My name is Gianni Russo, a.k.a. Carlo, the infamous son-in-law from The Godfather. I'm now known as the Hollywood Godfather, and this is my story.
Before all of the wins in my portfolio, I was a little boy diagnosed with polio. Experimenting with cures, I tried every one. Felt everything in my right, but my left was numb. Walking with a limp, like will I ever run? Once again, or is this it? Am I forever done? Living in the hospital was never fun. Some people were cool, but not everyone.
Welcome, everybody. It's time again for another Hollywood Godfather podcast. And I love doing these shows, especially with my co-host, Jeannie Raymond.
Hello,
How are you,
everyone.
my love. Hope
Hi.
everything's well in your life.
It sure is. It's cooling down a little, but not too cold because I'm a wimp.
I love it I love the fall. To me, it's like one of my favorite times in New York. So
Yeah.
with that said, you told me you had a request and I wanted to hear it on air so it could be more spontaneous.
That's right. So Mary from Chicago, she said she has read the book, The Hollywood Godfather, 2 times. And just so everyone knows, that book is still for sale. You can get that everywhere. It's still a bestseller. And I highly recommend it. I own a copy of the book and I listened to it on audio, which was fantastic because Gianni narrated it, which made it extra special. I really enjoyed that. But Mary said she's read the book twice and that she noticed that through his book, religion has always been a very big part of your life and you've been a devout Catholic. And she just wanted you to tell us about your feelings toward all of the changes that are going on with the Catholic Church and how that has affected you.
Well, you know, my confusion started early on because I was studying to be an altar boy. I used to go to church with my grandmother and my aunts every day. I was 5.5, 6 years old.
Wow.
And, you know, they introduced me to the altar. You know, it was that whole thing because they helped clean the rectory. They were so into the church. And then when I got polio, I was wondering why God was punishing me. You know, I was a nice little kid going to school, and all of a sudden I'm getting carried out of my house and being quarantined. So, you know, you can only imagine at my age, the only thing I knew was going to church and being with my family. And now I'm totally separated, don't know why. And it was very confusing. And you know, it's, I could remember, I mean, I could choke up thinking about the first 4 or 5 months of the hospital even because of the fact that I'm wondering, what did I do wrong?
Right. I can only imagine, Gianni. I mean, I'd be pissed. I'm thinking I go to church every day. Why me? So
Yeah, but you know, fortunately, my first mentor was a floor nurse, Dolores Barone. And Dolores Barone happened to be from the neighborhood, and she was very sympathetic. And she, you know, she used to bring me the extra Jello or extra pudding, and more than that. When she worked 6 days a week during that time because the epidemic, everybody was working double overtime. Before she'd leave, she'd come, you know, give me a hug at night, which I really needed.
oh, I can imagine.
And as my birthday was coming, because I got there August 7th, 1949, and now my birthday is December 12th, I'm already 3 or 4 months in the hospital. And I asked her, I said, you know, my birthday's coming. Is my parents, anybody be able to come? She said, no, Johnny, you're just too contagious. Well, you can imagine, nobody's coming for your birthday. Well, the night before my birthday, she brought me a transistor radio from Carlo Gambino, my Uncle Carlo. And I thought he was my legitimate uncle. But in the neighborhood, we were taught, you know, to people in the neighborhood that were on the same block with you. You always call people over 21 your uncle or your aunt. So he sent me a transistor radio. And I thought, this is great. And the morning I turned it on, December 12th, is when I met my first celebrity mentor, Frank Sinatra, because that's his birthday. And I'm sure a lot of our audience already knows that. But these are the obstacles where you question, I did anyway. Why is this happening to me? And then even when, I was part of the experiment with the vaccine, and I was making friends like anybody wanted to make friends in a hospital. You're there by yourself. And it's not a hospital that we know of today with televisions and all that. There was nothing. It was a 20-bed ward, 10 beds going down one side, 10 beds the other side, and that was it. And we were only separated by a draw curtain for privacy when they came in to, examine you. So I got friends with a couple of kids in the ward. And then all of a sudden, the next morning I'd wake up and they're sterilizing their bed. And I'd say, what happened to Robbie? They said he went to heaven. And I'm saying to myself, wait a minute, what is going on here? I'm going to church. I know what heaven is, but I don't want to go that soon.
Well, and it's 7, right? 7 years old.
I was turning 7, yeah.
Yeah, turning 7. Oh, you don't even really understand what that means, I cannot imagine.
Yeah, and to me, it's like, what's going on?
Right.
And then more confusion sets in because while I'm in the bed that I never shared before, I used to say the rosary all day long. I mean, that's how devout I was. And I had a little St. Anthony, plastic St. Anthony, that Dolores let me keep after they sterilized it.
Oh, wow.
So it took off some of the color. But just the sweat in my hands and holding these things for months, it looked like a distorted piece of plastic. Nobody knew what it was. But between that and saying the rosary, it kept me busy, fortunately.
Yeah.
And then they came up with an experimental drug, and they split the bed in half, the ward in half. 10 people got it, 10 people didn't. And I was picked on the half that wasn't going to get it. And again, I'm saying, why, God? I'm talking to myself, not to anybody else.
Sure.
Why are you doing this? Well, fortunately, this time it worked in my favor because those 10 kids, that experimental virus escalated the virus, and within 48 hours, they were all dead. Now I'm really panicking.
Right. You don't want that.
So it's a situation. It was amazing that even going through all of that, I kept my faith in God. And as I'm talking to you now, at 82 years of age, I still pray like a little kid before he goes to bed. I don't go to church anymore. We'll get into that later. But these are the things that I don't understand about the Catholic religion. When you hear, like today on the news, the first day of school, they massacred 6 kids.
They what?
They killed 6 kids in a school in the Midwest.
Oh my God.
So you often sit back and say, why is this happening?
Right.
If you believe in God and he's in control of all this,
right.
Why is God doing this? I mean, you're a Mormon, and what's your feelings in your religion?
Well, I wonder that too, Gianni, and it's like it's scary because it makes you question all of it, and no one's got a real answer. Last night, I believe it was last night, someone came home and found their family member, a 31-year-old woman, dead in her car with 3 children, ages 4, 2, and 1, all dead in the driveway from gunshots. And
the kids too.
All of them. I don't know if they kind of They wouldn't answer the police. It's so brand new. Didn't answer whether they were her children. I think they kind of alluded to the fact there's a gun in the car and she may have killed them and killed herself, but they didn't say that. They haven't come out with anything solid at this point. But I'm like, how does that happen? You know, you think you have a good and caring God and he loves us and blah, blah, blah. And then this comes up and it's like, I can only imagine how people lose their faith and just wonder what's going on and why God would let this stuff happen. But, you know, and faith, I guess, is all inside yourself. So.
Well, the good news about my faith, I know now, hindsight's 2020. It's made me who I am. I mean, as far as,
Oh, sure.
I'm very resilient for a lot of things. And I basically stopped certain emotions in my life only so I could survive, to get through it.
Right.
Even while I'm recuperating and not recuperating, while I'm rehabilitating, another obstacle, a pedophile attacks me. Well, we heard all of this. So when this lady's reading my book, you have to wonder, and it keeps going on and on and on. I mean, to me, even when I had the pleasure of meeting 3 popes, and Pope John Paul II became friends with me, and for 5 years, and he did something that was so unique. The restricted area of the Vatican, down in the catacombs, there are archives down there. And when I tell you there's 26 miles of shelving,
Holy smokes,
with artifacts on the shelves. And once an old librarian to those archives is passing on or getting sick, they pick another bishop or 2, they swear him in to a different oath.
Oh, wow.
That they cannot disclose anything they see there. And they've punished people, those cardinals, even to death, if they spoke about it. Because in those archives, the amount of wealth, Renoirs, Rubens, Masters, the amount of gold that's down there.
Wow.
I mean, when you think of the Catholic Church, remember, they don't pay any income tax. And they're the largest real estate holders in the world. Every church pays no taxes.
Right. I live in Utah where the Mormons are that have $1 or $2. Yeah, church is big business.
It's big business. And I did a lot of business with them, good and bad. But it was, because as you know, with my past, I'm reading the book, that they basically, Nick Nitti and I used to go there all the time. And the guy we used to meet was Bishop Marcinkus. And after learning who he was and how he got to that position, he was from Chicago. He was born in Chicago. He became a Monsignor. He became a bishop and then went to the Vatican.
Wow.
And with his connections in the Vatican and the connections with, I have to say it, organized crime, the only Banco de Roma, the branch of the Banco de Roma from Rome, the only American branch is in Chicago.
Really? That's wild.
And why I'm bringing this up is because talking about confusion of just the faith and the laws, and then you start to get involved, as I did. And Nick Nitti and I laundered over $600 million through the Vatican Bank coming out of Vegas for years. But they were the only ones that would take it on. We felt safe by delivering it to them. They even arranged for us to get it out. We would leave Las Vegas on a Monday, go to Chicago, get on an Alitalia flight. And we always had the same captain, Captain Ferreira. And this seemed like, just a natural thing. We'd walk on with our nitty travel bags, stuffed with money, all brand new money. And
Taking it there, right?
And take it there to Rome, land at Leonardo da Vinci Airport, at the foot of the steps, even before they put the automatic gangways in and all that. The bishop's car would be right there waiting for us. They'd take the money, and Nick and I would go into town and have some fun for the night, stay a day or two, and come back. And then, we'd get all our money deposited somewhere else. But when you start to think of these operations and how uniform they are, and never has anybody infiltrated it. Pope Benedict, which is an interesting story. Pope Benedict, when Marcinkus was ready to retire, the Italian government wanted to press charges against him for tax evasion because he accumulated in a private bank a major bank account. So they came to the Vatican to approach the Pope, and the Pope said, "You can't touch him." This is, which most people don't know this, or some may. The Vatican is 106 miles. Did you know that?
No.
The Vatican in Rome is a sanctioned city in Rome called the Vatican City.
Yeah.
And it was built, I don't know if you know this, on the first pope ever, St. Peter. When they decapitated St. Peter, that's his tomb there.
Oh.
So the history that I know about this church is insane. And it's so confusing.
My kids just went there with their dad and their stepmom. They went there a while back, and they said something about, I wish I recalled, like a mummy that's still perfectly. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's a saint. Because
Yeah.
he never decayed.
Right.
He's in a glass coffin.
That's exactly right.
I know, I've seen it.
That's exactly what they were talking about. They were just enthralled.
That's how they knew he was a saint.
That's what he said. He's like, he's still right there. It's still perfect.
I know. Hundreds of years old. But the thing that's confusing, we need to take a break.
We do need to take a break. You want to finish your thought, or you want to tell us on the way back?
We'll come right back. Remember, we know where you live.
That's right. We'll be right back.
Be right back.
Vinny from South Philly here. I'm going to tell you, I had one of the best Sunday dinners in a long time. I'm going to tell you why. Right here. Corleone, fine Italian, brother. This stuff is the real deal. Now, I know what you think. Everybody knows me out there. They know. I make my own sauce. I make my own gravy. I make my own pasta. I don't buy this stuff in the store. However, I made an exception. Why? Because my friend Gianni Russo out there, I know what he's capable of doing. I know what he's about. He's about quality. So I said, I gotta take a shot. And I'm glad I did. Because see, I've had dinner all over the world, but this product brings me back to Italy. We got the olive oil, and I've lived in Italy, okay? I lived in Calabria. I've went to Sicily. I've been in Messina. I've been to Palermo. I've been everywhere. And this oil reminds me of an old Italian couple that my father used to buy olive oil from. They used to live in the mountains, and they used to make their oil pure from their own olive grove. This is it. It brings me right back to that. And you don't need a lot. You put a little on your salad, you marinate. Come on. You can figure it out. This is the real stuff. I also got their arrabbiata, okay? Again, I don't buy this stuff. but I made an exception. I'm glad I did. I highly, highly, highly encourage you to try this stuff. You won't be sorry, okay? Give it a shot. You go to Corleone Fine Italian, you order it, it comes to the door, and then all you gotta do is put it together. And I'm sure you can look it up. And if you don't know how to cook it, you ask me, and I'll be over for dinner. Enjoy. Salud.
Okay, we're back. So what happened, the Pope intervened and told the government they couldn't prosecute Bishop Marcinkus. And they let him realize it. When they looked up the law, they had no jurisdiction over anybody on that property. So he went through his whole ordainship, whatever it was. He retired, went to Arizona. I used to visit him. And he died of natural causes in Arizona.
With a big wad of money, right?
With a lot of money that he made. How he made it, I don't know. I know how I made mine. He didn't want to know, but that's what it was about. But I used to laugh because I used to go to Arizona once a month, land in Arizona, and have to drive, 2 hours into the desert. Because what most people don't know, they sanctioned, or not sanctioned, basically committed Joe Bonanno to Arizona or to death. And he lost the Bonanno family in New York City. One of the 5 families was the Bonanno family.
Did
So
you
Joe,
say death or what else?
death. If he didn't go there,
Oh, it's Arizona or you die. Which is
or
it?
you die.
You're in that hot hell either way. What's it going to be?
Right.
120 in Arizona?
So I used to go there once a month to bring him an envelope.
Oh, gee.
No, well, one thing about Frank Costello, he was always a loyal guy, and that was a friend of his. But unbeknownst to Costello, even while I was there in the same city, Bishop Marcinkus is living, who's now a layman. He's living out his life. He died in 88, while he was 88. But I'm saying, and as the years go on, right after John Paul I dies, they ordain a cardinal, and they vote him Pope. Now, he don't want to go along with the program. He wants to clean up the church. There's laundering money, and all that was going on because he obviously knew about Marcinkus and that whole situation. He wanted to clean it up. Well, in 33 days as being a pope, he died of a heart attack. Of hot tea. We know he had hot tea one night. And who comes and gets ordained was John Paul II, which I love this guy.
Right.
So I'm there for the funeral of that pope. I stay till they name the next pope. I'm there for the inauguration of John Paul II. And we just hit it off. And he's going along with the program. And Marcinkus is still involved here yet. This all happened before he retired. So now we continue for another 5 years. And I get involved with John Paul II. And I get so friendly with him, he lets me know he had a son with the cleaning lady in the last church he was the Monsignor at.
Holy cow.
And I was saying to myself, I love this guy.
I'll bet you did. You guys had a lot in common.
I know, we were so charming. And,
I told my sister said today, she's like, I looked at a picture of Gianni when he was younger. He was handsome when he first started out in the business. And she said, of course, she's still handsome throughout the years, but she said, he must have had women all over him. And I said, have you forgotten how many children this guy has? She's like, oh my gosh, that's right.
No, so I'm now again to answer the latest question. Was I ever confused by our faith? Almost every hour on the hour, I'm saying like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And then I thought of something early in my life, and I heard it through our family on the Sunday dinners. The firstborn in our family, being Sicilian, was given to the church.
Oh.
Had to go to the church, male or female. In your adolescence, you go to each of the priesthood or go in the convent to become a postulant. And I used to say to myself, geez, I wish I was the oldest one. I want to become the Pope. And I used to say that in jest. And now I'm over there watching this. I didn't realize what I was wishing for. They had a great life. Never had to worry about a roof over their head. Got
Right.
fed 3 square meals, always had housing. And now I realize a lot of them are futzing around with the housekeepers. I was never into boys, thank God.
That's right. That's a
No,
good thing. You've been in big trouble.
So as the church goes on and they're doing all these transitions, and Vegas is changing their mode of operation, and the mob is diminishing, we had to start cutting down on the skim and getting out while we could, because now we're in the era of cameras and
Oh,
everything recorded, and Howard Hughes, as I mentioned a few times before, got an aircraft contract from the federal government for all the helicopters for the Vietnam War.
oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. But with the understanding, the profit of that money, he would buy up hotels in Vegas because they wanted to infiltrate private enterprise, and the government can't. But I knew almost everybody in CIA by their first name. Bill Dana, Bob Mayhew. I knew these guys because I wanted to know. And here they come. They come to Vegas. And now who's the vice president of a hotel? Who's this? Who's that? I'm saying, uh-oh. And I said, Nick, we got to stop operations. As that's happening, Pope Benedict wants to stop the laundering of money through the Vatican. And I don't know why he wanted to. But the federal government and the Italian government comes after the bishop, the cardinal that took Marcinkus's place, who was the head fiduciary for the Vatican Bank.
Oh, wow.
Well, Pope Benedict disordained him, and he became an Italian citizen that got indicted. Talk about a flip. And most people don't even notice. If they look it up, they'll find it out. But the guy got convicted and went
Oh,
to jail
oh,
for the same crimes that Marcinkus was doing for years, and retired and had a great ending of his life, died, playing golf in Palm Springs. I mean, Arizona. And I'm saying, talking about confusion. Now
oh.
let's spin forward to a conversation I had with Cardinal Dolan of New York, one of the biggest dioceses of Catholic churches in the world, New York City. And COVID came, and he's closing the churches. So I go see him. I used to go to St. Patrick's all the time. That's where he lives. He lives right behind there. And I know the guy. I mean, I see him on the streets. I talk to him. So I ring the bell, and I sit with him. I says, Cardinal, why are you closing the churches? As you've already separated the pews, there was 10 pews, then one you can occupy. There was no more holy water to make the sign of the cross. None of that. So they were taking the precautions because nobody knew what COVID was.
Right.
I said, but now you're closing the churches. In fact, you're closing the church right behind me, which is on 62nd Street here in New York. And I knew they didn't need any money. And he said, we needed money. This archdiocese here and was so well, I mean, because we'd give money like you wouldn't believe. We wanted the church. We loved it. And, it's right around the corner. So on a rainy day, I didn't walk to St. Patrick. I went over there. So he says to me, which is another confusing thing, we have to sell off some properties. I said, for what? Well, we have to settle these lawsuits for these pedophiles. So I'm sitting there saying to myself, wait a minute. You're selling off this property where people have been to this church for 100 years. It's one of the oldest churches in New York. And I know how much money they have in the Vatican. Why don't you go get that money? Why are you making us suffer? We had nothing to do with this.
Right.
But then he closed all the churches. Closed them. You couldn't go. And even myself, I wanted to go sit in there because my early days, I lived in St. Patrick's. When Costello would go home, he thought I was going home. I'd go to St. Patrick's. They were open 24 hours a day at that time. I slept there. I know the pew, 112, right in front of this altar for St. Anthony, because that was my patron saint. And that's where I used to sleep. Or go to New York Paramount, watch a movie, because they're open 24 hours a day. So I said to him, why in the need, when we need to be praying, you're closing these churches? He says, well, it's being spread within the church. I said, Father,
Spreading everywhere.
I never thought you would lie to me. He said, I'm not lying. It's a fact. I said, no, you already took the precaution. There's no water. There's nothing.
Right.
We're already sitting 10 pews apart. We're walking in with masks. Everything has been sanitized the most you can.
Sure.
But I'm making a plea because some of my friends in the neighborhood said, go talk to them. Why'd he close the church? Because they knew I knew him.
Right.
They closed every church in the state of New York, and he did it. Talking about confusion. I mean, thank God I have my altar in my bedroom with all my artifacts. I have an altar in every house that I own, fortunately. But to answer her question, I think like any faith, any church, in this modernization, what are they really? I mean, they're going against what they preach. Come to the church, come. Well, you can't get in.
Right.
So what was her name? Mary?
Mary in Chicago is wondering about that. And exactly, because it makes a lot of sense. You've gone through so many things in your life that most people would have given up any kind of faith, thinking this is, this can't be what a caring God would have in mind. But I guess if you look at it as he brought you through it, and you look at all the blessings you've had and taught you to be so grateful for everything that you have. I mean, that's a lesson I always learn from you, Gianni, is to appreciate what you have and be thankful for it and for the fortunate life that you've had,
And I'm glad you said that, because that was going to be my closing statement. Anybody listening to this show, don't forget, a church is just a structure. Your faith is in something far beyond us. You can kneel or don't have to kneel, just pray. And I'm a stickler on that. I pray so many times a day, it's ridiculous. But I don't pray for things for myself. I have plenty. But I just pray. I feel good when I pray. If I'm confused, I'll pray. I'll ask a question like people must think I'm walking the streets mumbling sometimes. But I'm talking to saints. I got St. Anthony. I mentioned, Pope Paul II, John Paul, and they call him now John Paul the Great. I don't know if you know that.
No.
Well, that's his nickname in heaven, the Great. But the only person I know that knows a saint. I know him. I know a saint in heaven. My grandkids tell me, Papa, you know a saint. I said, yeah. He said, how does that feel? I said, it's great. But for
That's
all the audience out there, I don't care if you believe in a monkey, as long as you believe in something other than yourself.
That's exactly.
And that's it.
Well, let's take another quick break, Gianni, and then we will finish off. I had another question I was just about to ask you, so maybe when we take that break, it'll come back to me.
All right. We'll be right back, please.
All right.
It's Gianni Russo, a.k.a. Caller from The Godfather. Well, I want you to know we appreciate you following us every week. But what we really want to do now is get you more involved with us. And I think a good way of doing that is get your personalized copy of Hollywood Godfather. All you have to do is go to GianniRusso.com. It'll tell you how to get it. Go on, buy the book. I want you to have it. I'll sign it to you and enjoy it. Write me letters about it. You want to hear some stories on air and dedicate them to you, we'll do that also. Meanwhile, God bless. Stay healthy. Okay, we're back.
All right. Well, I love you talking about this, and like you said, believe in something, and I agree with that. You know, even people that my mother, when I probably shouldn't even tell you that, but my mother, when my sister was sick, she said, I don't do a lot of praying, but I stopped and said a prayer today. And, you know, I think it can just bring you peace, you know, if you got that belief.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what it is. I mean, to me, like I said, I mean that if you believe in a monkey, whatever you believe in, you have to feel comforted when you're praying.
Right.
Whoever it is.
Exactly. Well, and if nothing else, it gives you time to stop and reflect on, you know, I think it was my half sister that said, you know, when we prayed when we were little, it wasn't to ever ask for anything until you said like 5 things you were thankful for, you know, and even if your beliefs, whatever they are, make you stop and reflect upon the things that you're grateful for in your life, it is certainly a good practice, you know.
Yeah. No.
So I do have another question, and coming from the Mormon capital of the world, what is Vatican and Vatican II? I was reading some stuff and it said, or maybe it didn't say two. Is there something? The differences, I don't know what it was. It had referred to something, maybe it was just some weird article. But what do you see the biggest changes in the way the church was when you went as a child and what it's turned into now?
Well, it's got more commercial. And, you know, it's not only about the faith, but I don't really think it's the church. I think it's the priests that are running it. They're trying to modernize themselves. They're trying to be too much for too many people. Just worry about your parishioners and the people that believe in you. You know, they're I think what they've done, and I think a lot of it had to do with COVID. When they closed those churches, like even my children, my grandchildren, the exploitation of the pedophiles have turned off a lot of people.
Yeah.
And why should you be protecting these people? It's against the religion to begin with. Why don't you throw them out and disgrace them? Why are you protecting them? I think that's a big problem.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I was just going to ask you. Are your kids and your grandkids, have they been immersed in the religion and
No.
No,
I don't think they are. No, I mean, you know, they said it's very hypocritical. How could I defend that one person? You can't. They read about it all the time.
Right, right.
And the church, I think, should clean house.
Oh, absolutely.
And what I just read, there's a shortage of priests now. Nobody wants to become a priest.
Oh, I think you'd be scared to death.
Hello.
Yeah. So
Maybe
I've got
clean it
another
up.
question before we finish. I'm sorry, I just saw these questions are coming to my mind. What's the biggest difference between a church here in the States and going to church when you're over there?
Well, the biggest difference is, when you go to Rome or you go to these old cities, you're in an old established neighborhood and churches, you're going to see the people in the morning walking to church during the week. They don't do that here. It's gotten too like an event. Let's get dressed and go to church and then go to lunch. I mean, that's what it is. It's lost its meaning, and for justified reasons. The priests have modernized themselves.
Sure. Well, and maybe something that kept that hidden, where I know there's always so much of it, but I'm sure if you're at church and in the building, people aren't talking about it. You know what I mean?
No,
When everyone's coming together, that's the best kept secret, because they're talking. It's when they leave there and talk about it.
Yeah.
And I do know during COVID, the older people over from the church that I used to go to as a child, the friendships that you made along the way, and you live in a neighborhood that you've been close with these people forever, and then COVID comes and sticks you all home, and they're doing Zoom church meetings and stuff like that. And I know for people when they got older, they missed that. They missed their friendships. They missed that life.
Yep. No, and all the clubs that the church has created within the church.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Great question, Mary in Chicago.
That's exactly right. Thank you, Mary. I learned a lot. I learned something every time, Gianni. You always give me some little wisdom here or there, no matter what our topic is. So thank you.
And our audience, we thank you. Keep
That's
the
right.
cards and letters and suggestions coming in. We appreciate you. God bless you. Have a safe and healthy life.
That's right. Send us your questions, you guys. We need some show ideas, and we love to, especially to come up with a show that you guys are asking about. So thank you so much.
All right. Good night.
Have a good night.
Good night, my love.
Bye-bye.
And that was that. But I'll be back.
No regrets, no complaints. Lived a life with no restraints. The little kid they all counted out, proved them all wrong, that's without a doubt. Laying there with my left side numb, 5-year bout with polio, but yes, I won. From standing on corners like how many pens you want, to living in a bakery, then opening my own restaurant. Of course, I had some help along the way, friends like Frank Costello that I miss each and every day. Things from many years ago still resonate.